Hello, and welcome to this video series on learning the Portable Stimulus Standard, or PSS. On behalf of the Accellera Systems Initiative, I'm Tom Fitzpatrick, CEO of Big Fish EDA Consulting, and a charter member of the Portable Stimulus Working Group. As we'll see, PSS is an abstract language for describing verification intent, and then mapping that intent into multiple implementations for different platforms throughout your verification flow. This video series will teach you the fundamentals of the PSS language that let you specify the behaviors you want to verify and the scheduling and data flow between those behaviors, as well as the resources required to implement those behaviors, including registers and memory allocation. On behalf of my colleagues on the Portable Stimulus Working Group, I'm really excited to bring you this video series, and I hope you enjoy it. In this session entitled Why PSS, we're going to talk about some of the SOC verification challenges that we face, the roles that different engineers play throughout the verification process, the relative strengths and weaknesses of both UVM and C for verification testing, and then we'll talk about why PSS is needed to address these challenges. Let's get started. So when we think about the phases of a verification project, we want to kind of start early so we can do some early software development on a virtual platform like a C++ or System C model. We do some architectural analysis at that point. Then as we start developing the RTL, we move into simulation, whether we're doing IP blocks or even up to the subsystem or SOC level. That's focused a lot on just sort of making sure that the design is correct, doing some coverage closure, making sure our test suite covers everything we need it to. We can move on to emulation to accelerate the hardware and do some subsystem SOC level RTL testing, maybe some bare metal hardware software integration. The FPGA platform allows us to do some prototyping of the actual RTL design, doing some software development and validation on close to realistic speeds. And then in the post-silicon realm, we're really focusing on making sure that the silicon actually works, doing some yield testing, things like that, maybe do some real traffic software integration. So when we look at all of these different pieces, what that means is that we have a lot of specialized engineering resources that are required throughout this process. Right? There's significant development effort for each environment. There's limited sharing of models between the environments, unfortunately. Sometimes they're done in different languages. It's difficult to reuse tests across environments for that reason. And there's a lot of effort to migrate between the environments and projects. So if we look at what kinds of tasks are actually done on each of these different platforms, we have specialized engineers that tend to do each of those things. So the architect typically does the early software development on a virtual platform. Hardware designers typically do simulation, sort of basic functional testing. Verification engineers do more of that and move into kind of the emulation as well as the FPGA platform. The FPGA platform is used by software test engineers for doing things at the SOC level. Software developers can actually start using the FPGA platform, and then we have post-silicon validation engineers that are using the post-silicon platform. UVM is really good for simulation and emulation. So the constrained random transaction level stimulus monitoring coverage, allowing us to create reusable modular configurable components, and allows us to really put together sort of a plan-based metric-driven process. So UVM is really great for that part of the process. Unfortunately, it becomes hard to coordinate resource dependencies and constraints across different processes when you get up into the SOC level, and it's difficult to capture those kinds of use cases from the transaction level coverage that we used in UVM. And also when you get up into the SOC level, performance is a real issue for UVM. So even if you could use UVM in post-silicon or even on an FPGA platform, the performance becomes a problem, and it's really kind of difficult to capture those kinds of test cases in UVM. So at the high end, the FPGA platform where we're really trying to do software-driven testing, we typically use C and C++, right? So this is kind of a natural way to realize system tests, gives us better performance on these faster platforms, and really allows us to reuse these tests as we go from pre-silicon at the FPGA platform to post-silicon as well. The problem is that each of these tests is developed manually, so there's maintenance costs. It's difficult to debug what's going on sometimes because you can't always correlate between what's going on in the software and what's going on in the hardware. And there's really no good way to track these metrics against the plan other than a checkbox in a spreadsheet that says, yeah, I did this test, I did that test. But being able to correlate that back down to specifics in the design or coverage closure or things like that are a little bit difficult at that level. So we have UVM for some things and C and C++ for some things. The software-driven tests can't really shift left. It's hard to use software-driven tests in IP design, simulation. It's hard to move UVM up to the system level, as we talked about. And UVM also doesn't really port well to the faster platforms either. So we have this portability wall, if you will, where you have some critical parts of the process being done in UVM and other critical parts of the process being done in C and C++. So how can we break through that portability wall? Well, that's where portable stimulus comes in. As we'll see, portable stimulus lets you model your pure verification intent and realize it on multiple platforms. So a portable stimulus vision is providing a hierarchy of these abstract models. So whether you're at the SoC, the subsystem level, or the IP level, you're dealing with the same kinds of abstract models. So we define what actions or what things are required for any given piece of IP, whether it's your IP UART, your DMA, or whatever. At the subsystem level, we can create additional models that make use of those IP level models, so everything is hierarchical, and then we can build that up to the SoC level as well. So everything is hierarchical and everything does exactly what you need for that piece of the model, and you can compose larger models from smaller models. The realization layer is really key here. So we specifically divided the model into the abstract model at the top and the realization, which is the actual implementation of each of those behaviors in your target platform. So whether you're on your virtual platform, simulation, emulation, whatever, you can specify the specific target level implementation of the behaviors that you put in your abstract model. And we'll see over the course of these videos exactly how we do that. Thank you for your attention. I hope you found this session interesting and informative. Please stay tuned for the next video in the series, where we'll go through a portable stimulus equivalent of the classic C Hello World example. Hope to see you there.